Hello? Okay. All right. So today is going to be the last lecture that we're going to meet. Next week we're going to have the final. So today in the second half we'll review what might be on the final exam next week. Also we'll have the quiz at the end of the lecture. Today we're going to be chatting about transactions, concurrency, and indexing, and how they can help optimize the use of a database. Later this week, we're going to be releasing a form for you to fill out for the project, where we're going to ask you where in a GitHub repository are you hosting this? If you're hosting this remotely. Also, we'll ask you to use specific username and passwords if you are logging in. Ideally, you would have had used those logins to create some data so that the TAs and myself can then log in as those users and find that there's some data already associated with those users. We're also going to ask you to provide a link to a wiki page on your Git repository, where you're going to specify steps to test your application. Ideally, these would be fairly detailed steps that we will follow to verify that certain requirements were met. Right. So, for instance, we'll ask you, how do I verify that we have a one-to-many relationship? And you'll tell me, well, log in as Alice, search for a movie, favorite, and now verify that indeed there's a one-to-many relationship between Alice and movies, or something like that. Okay. Also, the form will ask for a contact information so that the TAs and myself can get in contact with you if we run into any trouble grading your project. Please provide a contact that you will be available during that week. Especially if you're planning to travel, perhaps you might give a contact information from someone who perhaps stays here in the States, or some contact that you will be available wherever you are in the world during that week. Usually we allow folks to keep working even after the due date, but any time after the due date, which is next Monday. I'm sorry, not next Monday, the 10th. Any time after that, you could expect to be graded at any time. The TAs might send you a message as a courtesy that they're about to start grading you, and you should stop doing any work. Obviously, there will be some folks who are graded before others. So obviously, those that are graded later will get a couple more days to work on their project. Unfortunately, there's no other way to make it fair. It'll be random though, right? Let's see, what else? I think that's it. You have any questions? So one of the questions that folks are asking is, do you have to use a third-party API, or could you use instead a data that you can import? And I believe it in the description, in the requirement, says that you could do either. You can either download a huge XML or CSV or tab or some huge file with lots and lots of data, and then import that somehow into your database, or alternatively, you could use some dynamic API and fetch the data every time, depending on the queries. Either one is fine, right? Also, the login and user management, it doesn't necessarily have to be an actual login and registering. It could be that there has to be some mechanism by which you identify yourself. Right? That it's me. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be secure, or it doesn't have to be SSL or encrypted passwords. It doesn't have to be anything like this. It has to be a means by which folks can identify themselves and saying it's me. And now the data that I'm going to display or interact with is based on that person's identity, of that person, whoever's logged in or identified. Okay. Also, it doesn't, don't spend any time making it look prettier than it has to. Obviously, it needs to be presentable. It needs to make sense as we use the application, but it doesn't have to. No need to market it or do some special CSS or anything like that. There's no need for that. Okay. What else? We're not going to grade any particular technique that you might have used for the user interface. So whatever technology or technique or library that you're using, we're not going to grade you on that part, right? Whether you used good practices or whether you broke the front end application correctly or not. We're not going to grade any of that. Okay. We would if this were a web development course, but we're not going to grade you on that. Your question?
Is there any sort of rubric on what you are grading on, or is it just?
I'm sorry?
Is there any sort of rubric on what you are grading on, or is it just
Just the
the requirements?
requirements. So we'll ask the one to many, the many to many, the user to user, user to domain, domain to domain. So each one of those will ask you steps by step on how to validate whether that's actually working. And that's what you'll be graded on. Any question? Yes, it's flickering. Yeah, I'll turn it off. Anything else?